All right, I'm Victoria Palmer with the Washington Civil Rights Council. I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a person of average intelligence who has had the privilege of working with the team here at the WCRC. I do have a professional background in HR and industrial hygiene, so I know what businesses are going through when being asked to implement this policy that we're going to talk about here. We're going to take a look at some of the legal issues around the recently implemented Vaccination Verification program in King County, Washington State. First, let's set the context here. Having businesses card their customers for vaccination status is something that has never, ever been done in the United States of America before this year. So, even a state of emergency that's been dragged out for 18 months now could hardly be cause for such a drastic measure. Certainly this policy will not hold up in an honest court, and I encourage any restaurant that has been forced to refuse business while enforcing this policy to promptly file a lawsuit. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at what we're talking about. Vaccination verification started October 25th, 2021. It appeared in Washington State a little earlier in Jefferson and Clallam counties in September. But basically in King County, it started October 25th. People aged 12 and older are required to show proof of vaccination ID or negative test within 3 days before entering certain business establishments such as restaurants for indoor dining, gyms, movie theaters, concerts, and sporting events.
And clinics.
And what?
Clinics too.
Clinics,
Medical clinics.
medical clinics.
I know.
I think medical clinics is based on the company policy. Okay. All right. So this is King County. And it is based on this local health officer order put out by our King County health officer, Dr. Jeff Dushin. And so this is the order that businesses are following, and we're going to take a closer look at this. But first, I'm just calling out to all of Washington State, this is not a King County issue. Clearly they are testing us for export to the rest of the state, the counties in the state. In fact, actually, guess what? It's already statewide. In October, Inslee issued a statewide Vaccine ID for large events starting November 15th. It didn't attract much attention since it's only for indoor events of 1,000 or more, but it's certainly his way of laying the groundwork of authority statewide to add to as he can. So I'd encourage businesses outside of King County to question this state policy now. So Vax ID is here in the state right now. And here is a quote from Inslee. Inslee recently replied to a question of, will there be Vax ID for the whole state? And he said, we're following the situation in King County. We're evaluating it. We haven't made any decisions on that one way or another. So please, those of you in Snohomish County, other counties around the state, be very aware of this. We need to stop it in its tracks. And so let's take a look at what we're up against here. Basically, businesses being asked to enforce Vax ID policy are violating the law. They're being asked to violate the law. So we're going to go over this, which is the Washington State Law Against Discriminations, which gives all citizens in the state of Washington the right to be free from discrimination because of race, creed, color, or physical disability is recognized as and declared to be a civil right. This right shall include, but not be limited to, the right to the full enjoyment of any of the accommodations, advantages, facilities, or privileges of any place of public resort, accommodation, assemblage, or amusement. So businesses like restaurants and theaters are places of public accommodation. They are not free to set and enforce discriminatory practices such as Vax-ID. These policies discriminate by nature since you are excluding customers with religious beliefs or disabilities that would prohibit them from certain medical procedures, including testing. That is a medical procedure that we have the right to refuse. Businesses cannot claim the right to set their own policy by being a private business or private property like a homeowner could. Businesses are allowed to refuse service to individuals who are unruly or engaging in criminal behavior, but why would any business refuse service to otherwise peaceful customers? By the way, this applies to customers and employees in terms of discrimination against people. Okay, let's look at the health order being, that this is all based on. There's 5 pages of assumptions that they claim to necessitate this order, such as, based on the quote-unquote facts of the pandemic. So any one of these terms can be questioned because, 18 months into this, it's, is this really an emergency? Now, let's get down to, this is a 5-page document, and they expect people to read this all the way down to the end on page 5. And if you read this thoroughly, you'll see that he's really just making assumptions and stating, terms of this. It's really on page 5 when he gets to how he's attempting to enforce this to compel behavior from businesses and customers. So it's really on page 5 where I'll read the passage here, where he says, as the local health officer, I strongly recommend and urge all people and businesses in King County to voluntarily comply with this order and its anti-discrimination requirements. Dr. Jeff Dushin. Okay, so it clearly states voluntarily, but I'll get to the second part of this real quick because a group of us started going business to business to educate them on this fact that indeed this was a voluntary policy and he was only urging them to comply. After that, we did that in mid-October. After that, the King County revised this health order to delete the word voluntarily. They came out with a revision right here, voluntarily. They deleted that. They deleted the word voluntarily from the November 1st revision of this health order. Highly suspicious, huh?
Yeah.
Perhaps our efforts were getting back to them as businesses were questioning this. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah. It also shows that pushback and questioning works, you guys.
There's no law.
There is no law. So let's take another aspect of this health order. We're going to look at the part in the front here where they're claiming authority to do this. Let's take a look here. So the key quotation is the Washington Administrative Code, given here. Responsibilities and duties, local health officers. Local health officers shall, when necessary, conduct investigations and institute disease control and contamination control measures, including medical examination, testing, counseling, treatment, vaccination, and it goes on. It's quite a list there. But let's take a close look at this, guys. I have HR experience. This isn't citing his powers This is a list of job duties. This is a job description. This is a job description. So sure, King County can set up and provide vaccination. So can your doctor. So can the Safeway pharmacy. Nothing in this code gives them the authority to mandate vaccination on the population. Nothing here overrides the due process of law they are required to follow when dealing with individual citizens. Nor does it give them any authority to require businesses to be their enforcers, asking them to break the Washington law against discrimination. Yeah.
That's the WAC, it's not the RCW. Only the RCW is the law. WAC interprets the law.
Fair enough. And you can go back. The first, what she's talking about is the RCW that's here.
Or it's just the administrative code. That's not the law. Washington Administrative Code. That's not the law.
Let me just explain for the people.
Yes.
So the RCW, you can look this up and read the RCW, but the RCW is rather vague.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm tackling the
I'm just looking what you
WAC.
have up there. So.
Yeah, you're correct. You can come and read this later, but the RCW is here, but you have to look it up to get the full
Okay,
list.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. And so to answer your question, the RCW doesn't give them power either.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, thank you. Okay, people. So what we're faced with here is basically the suggestion of power and authority over businesses and individuals to compel vaccination. So basically what we're doing is we're unsuggesting this power. And so what's going to work here is the same grassroots effort that we've been doing, is educating, getting out there, and informing the public of this. And we realize, I've worked in a business. I know what the pressure they're under, especially trying to balance, customers and other employees. Is the health department going to show up? So this is a delicate issue for restaurants. They're only there, ultimately to make money. If they're looking at huge fines that would take away from that, then it makes sense that they would have to enforce these policies. So believe me, we do sympathize with businesses. Let's get on to solutions here, because I do hear the question that I've been hearing the last few weeks is, where can I eat without a Vax ID? And so, and I 100% do not support using a fake Vax ID. That's just supporting that their seizure of authority. So I 100% do not support that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And but it can be a difficult question to answer right now. We can work on compiling lists of places, but I'll tell you what people are running into is, even within a business, there's not agreement on whether to enforce this or not. The owner might want to enforce it, but the particular server that's greeting you, it might be against their moral code, so they're not going to ask you. What we have found is a lot of places you can go into and just tell them no, that I don't have an ID, or even better yet, show them your card. This is my business card, and I welcome you all to grab some on your way out, because
Yes.
I have used this successfully to get in. It's basically kind of a, no, I don't have ID, but I will be. I'll cooperate with you. I'm here to educate you. And so if you happen to get a server that is not going to question this, they'll just seat you. So we've had some good luck on this. But again, your mileage is going to vary depending on who's on duty, depending on what the owner's policy is. And let me share a few stories with you. We've done business outreach in neighborhoods in Seattle. I've specifically done Greenwood and Queen Anne. And I will tell you that this was before the Vax ID started. So there was already, like, maybe 1 in 10 businesses was already asking for Vax ID. So that was on them. That was them implementing a discriminatory policy. And they were not receptive to our education. We found about 1 in 10, another 1 in 10 businesses were really happy to hear from us, and they were like, yeah, there's no way we're gonna be doing this. And these are in Greenwood and Queen Anne, which are right in there in Seattle. no way we're gonna be doing this. In fact, I've talked to businesses that would rather close their doors, or at least, I've talked to a few businesses saying, we're gonna offer takeout only. We're not even gonna do seating so that we don't have to ask for Vax ID. So that is one option that businesses are looking at. But again, in the businesses, I'll tell a story about Greenwood. We went into a bar there and was greeted by a real friendly waitress wearing a bandana as a mask. And we showed her some of our paperwork and she's like, oh, thank you for coming. You know, I really don't want to enforce this. This is horrible. And she said the owner lives in Arizona, so he's not there. She's pretty much the one in charge. She can set the tone. So she said, yeah, if you send anyone in here, if they just say no, then we'll seat them, no problem. So that's an example of a place that I would feel comfortable sending someone. I mean, it was a bar, but it has food too. And it looked like a great place where it's like, you know, you could meet someone if you needed to. And so I went back recently to see how it was going, and she said that, yeah, she's not asking, and if someone else is on duty when you get there, that they will, they'll have no problem seating you. But she told me a story about a bar that was about 3 doors down who has one employee there that's really insisting on the Vax ID. And she said business is tanking there, so good news from the field. I'm also getting, you know, I have a mailing list, and so I get emails from all sorts of people. And the vibe on the street is that most businesses are kind of looking the other way. So my recommendation is, I mean, the ones you can tell by signage, if they're really eager, they're gonna put this up, you know, make it really obvious that they want Vax ID. I would avoid those places for now. But I actually encourage you to go out to all the businesses because we want to keep that dialogue open. If everyone just shows their card, it's gonna get real easy for them to just enforce it. So now a word from the businesses. If any businesses are watching this and they are wondering, okay, what's the enforcement like? What's gonna happen to me if I get in trouble for this? Let's take a look, because this is straight from King County. From the King County website, the FAQs, how will this policy be enforced? So as with other public health orders, King County will focus on education and outreach to support people in following the health order. So, I mean, that's gonna apply to most of these situations where a business gets a complaint from another customer, you know, the snitch line.
Yeah.
King County would then enact a process where they basically reach out to that restaurant and say, hey, we've got a complaint against you. So what we're asking businesses is to basically non-enforcement of this order. If they reach a point where they are contacted by King County, come see us. Give us an email, you know, we want to help there. We want to be there for support. In fact, we have many businesses in the network that have been successfully non-implementing this, going back to the mask mandate. We have several restaurants and a yoga studio that have never enforced the mask mandate. They've just allowed people to be on the honor system with the masks. Most people wear them anyway. But if you're a business facing an issue like this or a concern or you're afraid, contact me at contact@marchforfreedomwa.com. That's my email address. And we can set you up with one of these businesses that has been doing it all year. And these are businesses in King County. This isn't Eastern Washington, this is King County. And just to finish this slide, if there are complaints of patrons or businesses egregiously not following the order, county officials will contact businesses and event organizers and take action as feasible. And just so you know what that means, we have contacted King County and heard particularly that they are referring to large indoor events where those are the ones that they're going to focus on a little bit more. But even then, if you are someone questioning this and you're in charge of that and you don't want to enforce Vax ID, contact us. We'll support you. We'll bring people out at the very least. And ultimately, we've created a sign that we would like to see displayed in the windows of restaurants that will welcome everyone for seating. It's welcome to our business. All customers are welcome here. King County is asking that we require proof of COVID-19 vaccination or a negative test for all patrons at this establishment. We are a constitutionally compliant business, the Washington State Constitution and the United States Constitution. We do not discriminate against people based on color, race, age, religion, or medical condition. Questions or concerns? Go to the Department of Health. Thank you, guys. This would be